Welcome to this session today on beans, and as we Indians know them as our full beans, that's what I'm going to be talking about, our whole beans. And we even call them, like our split beans, which is our dals and everything. Hello, hello, hi, welcome. And in popularly known as legumes. And I'd like to go back to a bit of history. Why legumes? Because legumes come from the word legumin, and basically what I'm going to be talking about is anything that constitutes a bean or a seed becomes comes under the legume umbrella. Hi everyone, welcome. And today we are going to be talking about the whole debate about plant protein through them. And I'm going to also be giving you some insight into why there are some myths surrounding them and what those myths are and how we should go about addressing, protein for vegetarians and vegans especially. So today the live is going to focus on that. Hi, thanks for joining me, all of you. That's so nice to see so many people. It's so encouraging. Hello, hello, hi. So let's get cracking. So yesterday I talked a bit about, for those of you who didn't follow the session on grain, and it is going to be available on IGTV. We talked about how every food group has its own energetic component, and that's what's unique about the approach that I follow, which is macrobiotics. And we are, focusing on the energetic quality of what beans provide you. Okay, so let's go back to the soil conditions that a typical bean would be growing in. They'd be growing in a soil condition where there is, a lot of nitrogen fixation going on, with the result that it imparts a quality of, durability, endurance, and a calming, energetic component to a bean. And that's what it's going to do for you as well. It's going to bring in what we call calming protein as to stimulating protein that animal protein would bring in. Okay, I'm not disqualifying animal protein. I'm going to, of course, lay the groundwork for it. But yes, in terms of a protein source, it's going to give you this more calm, protein. Okay, it also provides a lot of flexibility, easygoingness. That's the energetic component of a bean, including it in your diet. Now when I say bean in the Indian context, I'm talking about, from chickpeas, which is your the white garbanzo beans, your what Indians call chola typically, to kala chana, which is your black gram bean. Then you're talking about, chauli lobia, which is your your white bean. And you're talking about red kidney beans. You're talking about black soybeans, which Indians are not using so much, but we should. And you're talking about the whole dals, as we call them, the black dal and the black whole dal and the green moong dal. So that's the umbrella of beans, okay, coming to you in the Indian diaspora. And then you have the split versions. You have lentils, you have your dals, as we call them. You have your pink dals and your arhar dal, you have your tuar dal, you have your masoor dal. These are all the dals coming to you. So that's what we're talking about today. We're talking about that component or that umbrella of foods. And of course, the big thing that they do for you is, on a physical level, they bring in a lot of trace minerals. So there's a lot of magnesium, there's a lot of selenium, there's a lot of folate, there's a lot of vitamin K, there's B6, and I mean, it's in abundance. Plus, what it's doing for you additionally is bringing in a concentrated source of protein. A lot would argue, and I'm coming to that in a bit, that this is not a complete source of protein. But I beg to differ on that point. When you consume it in isolation, then it brings in an incomplete source. But when you're consuming it combined with a whole grain, like yesterday we talked about brown rice and we talked about millets, you're going to be getting a complete source. Okay, I mean, it'll be complete in a sense. For those of you who are working out and stuff, I'm going to be addressing that on how to up your quotient for the beans in your diet. That's if you're vegetarian or vegan. Okay, and also we'll talk about animal protein and how that fits in. although I'm doing a whole session on that separately. So, getting back to the nature of the bean, okay? So, I've told you that eating them and including them in your diet is going to get you this. What are the contraindications to this? We're also going to deal with, but eating them is going to get you a complete source, not an incomplete source of protein, sure, but combined with whole grains, a complete array of aminos, and it's going to also build this nature of being calm, being more, with plant protein, having a more easygoing nature, having a more outgoing nature, having great skin because it's got good stuff in there for your skin, giving you all the trace minerals that you need, and of course, a good source of fiber. Okay, so these are the pluses on a physical level. Now there are theories in the whole modern nutritional theories that are coming out with people who are on high animal protein diets, saying that, listen, your bean just doesn't cut it for you. Your bean is not enough. It doesn't give you the complete source of protein, which is true. Like I said, it's not complete, but that's what makes it so great. Because if you combine it with the others, it's giving you complete, and then also if it's incomplete, it's also giving you this calming sense of protein, which animal food is not doing for you. The other thing is it a good source of protein? The thing is, my answer to that would be, it would be nice if you're on a vegetarian or a vegan approach to do a balanced protein intake. So, you have a balanced vegetarian or a vegan meal, which is having, your grain, your vegetables, your bean component or lentil component, and then you're having a good quality or a good amount of fermented foods. This then becomes your balanced plate, and then you're looking at other sources of protein, like if you up amaranth in your diet, which is a rajgira in the Indian context, which is bringing in a fair amount of complete protein. And if you're bringing in quinoa, amaranth and quinoa are almost having the same amino acid profile, then you're upping the quotient of your protein consumption. Some of the other theories surrounding bean is that it's got phytates in it, and it creates a lack of mineral absorption when it's got phytates. So it's a double-edged sword where you're getting all these trace minerals, but it's got the phytates in it. What do we do? Well, the time where the phytates will hurt you is if you're not soaking the bean. So one of the tips that you need to understand for your bean is it needs to soak for a minimum of at least 8 hours. The other tip that I can leave you with today is that if you make it with something called kombu is a seaweed. And this is a really big tip that I'm giving off to you guys, but it's there in all my books, that if you use kombu and just a stamp size piece for 5 people in the family, and you start using it when you're just cooking, before your tempering is done, and then remove it when the bean has been cooked, it should make it easier to digest, and it adds to the pre-digestibility of the bean. So there, I've given you another tip to make your beans more digestible. If you are getting flatulence, it's not the bean that's causing it, it's the compromised digestive system that leads to some amount of flatulence with the bean, or that leads to indigestion. So you need to go back and question your digestion, and then start slowly or moderately including beans in your diet. So first start with the split lentils, then graduate onto the more heavier, stronger beans. But you need both kinds. So you, in the Indian diaspora, you need the whole bean and you need the split lentils. Those are both very important for you. So in a week, you need at least 3 times of a whole bean and 3 times of a split lentil if you're doing a vegetarian format. The other thing that I would leave you with is, well, what about, there's another controversy out there that, when people age, you need something called leucine, which is again an amino, to build muscle. And beans don't have much of it, which is also true. But again, like if you use other sources of protein to up your diet, I can leave you with another tip here, that if you're using like a vegan based or a vegetarian plant protein, there's plenty of pea protein available in the Indian market now, and there's plenty of brown rice protein powder available in the market now. And you can up your diet with spirulina, which has a very good which is also a very good source of protein. Then chances are you're upping your protein quotient of the day, and that's helping you along. Okay, so a good idea for a vegetarian would be to kind of look at your diet, look at your daily diet, and see that okay, I'm really working out and I really need to up my protein, and I need about, let's say 36 grams per pound. That works out to roughly 53 grams for a 50-year-old. So I need about that much as a minimum in the day, especially if I'm working out, my needs are going to be slightly higher. So I'm going to look at other sources of protein as well. Okay, and like I said, your other sources of protein become spirulina powder. It becomes, good vegan protein blend or a vegetarian blend. I'm not recommending whey here because I'm strictly against dairy. So I take a pretty hard stand on whey. So any other protein blend that would get you get you a good source of vegetarian protein. Okay, and of course a balanced meal plan. Like I said, you're going to include your grain and you're going to include your bean component. The other theory that comes about with beans again is that okay, fine, they are high on starch, and they are, again we go back to the theory which I told you yesterday of being carb heavy, and therefore adding to our carb load. Therefore most diets, like even the ketogenic diet, takes you off the beans. Okay, is that good? Is that bad? Well, there is no reason why a certain amount of beans should not be in your diet if you're a vegetarian or a vegan. Okay, of course the non-vegetarians have a choice, right? They are going to other sources of protein. So most non-vegetarians in the Indian context are eating one vegetarian meal and one non-vegetarian meal, and some of them are having both meals which are non-vegetarian. But you can really decide, including a moderate amount of bean for a non-vegetarian at lunch or dinner, or having a one meal which is not a chicken or a fish or a meat dish, depending upon your capacity to absorb that, is perfectly fine. That's if you're of good health condition. The controversy with bean comes about if you've got autoimmune, because leucine, this as its research, sticks to the red blood cells and creates a sticky condition. Therefore it puts you in the inflammation situation. And if you have an autoimmune disease, if you have type 2 diabetes, if you have food intolerances, or you have other such issues, digestive issues, leaky gut, a bean gets difficult. And I must say this and put this out here as a caveat, that I do take my very compromised clients, in the ones who are compromised in their gut, they get off. I take them off the bean for a while just to see how they respond, and then if they are vegetarian or vegan, sorry, that's gonna fall. If they are vegetarian or vegan, I put them back on it if they are responding well to it. So yes, in a compromised digestive situation, it could get a little difficult. So that's where you've got to keep, the whole how do I soak my beans, especially when you're getting out of a compromised situation. So let's say you're getting, you're balancing out your autoimmune, or you're getting out of a diabetes situation and you want to bring back the bean, then you look at how many hours you're soaking it, how you're cooking it. Also, are you eating it in isolation or are you coupling it with other foods? You must couple your bean with other foods, because eating it in isolation is also going to create issues. Bring in sprouts. That's another thing that people who are vegetarian, because sprouts have this lovely energy of breaking away from structure. Sprouts are basically germinating. They are breaking away from the organized structure of the bean or the seed, and coming up into their own, and that's the kind of energy they give you. So when I am writing my books, or I need to think of new ideas, or I need to really get out with the innovative stuff, I start eating a lot of sprouts, because that's the kind of energy it's going to give me. So bringing in sprouts into your diet. Also, just remember, digestion is a key. In digestion is enzymes. Okay, and sprouts do that for you. They bring in the enzymes. So it's a good idea, even when you're looking at your protein blend, does it have some sprouted component in it? Because that's going to up your enzymes, and that's going to help digestion as well. So that's where you start looking, that's how you start looking at your bean component in the diet. Okay. Get variety in, that's really important. Cook many different types. There is a theory out there that the combination of leucine and phytates don't work very well for the bean. It is very hard for people who are on, in situations like I mentioned. And there is that theory out there. And like I did say, it's something that you've got to work with and see how it really works for you. If it's really working for you, will you do it? Will you go off it for a while, and will you get back onto it? I must put it out here that most Indians are vegetarian and vegan, and most of them are including these beans in their diet. So suggesting an alternative to it in terms of taking, if you're an egg eater, taking your egg quotient high, and I am going to be discussing eggs, is that an option? I don't think so. I do think vegetarians and vegans need to maybe have it in required quantities and balance it out with other stuff in their diet, so that they're getting adequate protein. Yes, as we age, we need more protein in our diets. There's no two ways about that, because your muscle mass starts waning off. So you're going to need more solid quality protein in your diet, and therefore I've given you the sources that you need to up it with things like spirulina. Maybe get chlorella in. It's not that widely available in India, but you do get it online. Maybe get up your diet with one meal of rajgira rotis, which is amaranth. Again, keep it in mind that the moment you include flour in your diet, it's making for paste in your stomach. So then go to the whole grain variety. So you can include amaranth in a whole grain porridge to up your protein a bit. Let's say you're a vegetarian and you don't do eggs for breakfast, you can use amaranth instead. Again, I don't recommend a milky porridge. I recommend almond milk or a nut milk, something like that. So that's the real theory on beans. Are they a good source of protein? My answer to them is yes. Do you really need them in your diet? My answer to them is yes. Would What happens to vegans or vegetarians? My answer would be balance it out with other sources of protein, and keep asking me questions if you'd like. Look at the vegan vegetarian blends that are available in the market. There's plenty going around now. I know of at least, I think, two good brands that are doing very good quality protein. And of course, include them from other sources of food. Just don't stick to your concentrated bean source, but do include them. Like I said, every food group, and this is where I'm coming from, has the capacity to give you a certain amount of energetic quality that it has, and it gives you that same energetic quality. The bean has two halves to it. If you see a bean, it's got one and two, and these two correspond to different organs as well. Okay, so the lungs and the kidneys, or the brain and the heart. So every bean has its own way. Every half of the bean corresponds to an organ, so it's going to give you that energy in that organ as well. That's really important. It's also gonna the kind of bean you're consuming is also going to give you that energy. That's why we say in the macrobiotic diet we use a lot of azuki beans as a healing bean. It's given a lot to people who are healing with severe conditions. Similarly, if someone had a kidney condition, I would give them a lot of the beans, but I would use soybean, black soybean. Of course, again with beans, and I'd put this out here, if you're looking for fermented sources, like let's say soybean, there's a big controversy out there with soybeans. And yes, it does trigger certain conditions, like, if you've got a PCOS, or you've got a thyroid, or you've got a breast cancer situation which you're recovering from, then would I take you off a soybean? Yes. But would I let you go ahead and have a fermented soybean, which is tofu, non-GMO? Of course. Okay, because it makes, if you're a vegetarian or vegan, it makes for a great source of protein. Okay. So also when you're out there in the Indian market, you should be looking at preferably organic and preferably non-GMO. Okay, these two things must be kept in mind, because with beans, that's what tends to happen. You get a lot of GMO, genetically modified beans coming in, and that's when the problem starts. You've also got to look at if you want a higher quality, like we were talking about having a higher quality source of protein, and then you're looking at your tofu, okay, or you're looking at tempeh. Tempeh is not out in the Indian market, but you do get a fair amount of it in places like Goa and stuff like that. And I know people are sourcing it. You can, in fact, make your own tempeh. I'm throwing out something new to you. It's a very good quality of protein from coming from soybeans. It is fermented, so it's giving you that little good gut bacteria. The other thing that beans do for you is they provide you with something called resistant starch, which is one of the biggest benefits of beans. Okay, because what it's doing for you is this kind of starch is great for your gut bacteria. Okay, so I think that's one of the biggest pluses that beans have. Apart from the fiber that they give you, which the bacteria thrive on, the leftover fiber in the large intestine, they're also giving you this resistant starch, which is great for good gut bacteria. So that's one of the biggest pluses of the bean. I will be discussing a lot of animal protein tomorrow, and or whenever I'm slotting for animal protein and meats and stuff like that. I will be discussing that. But for people who are out there who are reading a lot of Western literature on getting off the bean because they're on a ketogenic approach, and or following theories which say that don't have the bean, let's just stick to you know animal protein. That's a choice that you really make on your own. And is it really good? Sure, because animal protein is giving you in combination complete protein. But you have to look at the Indian context, and you have to look at people here who are consuming vegetarian diets, and what do they do. So in that case, then you have to look at providing them balanced meal platforms, and you need to also help them with how to wean off a bean if they were in difficult situations, and then get them back upon it once they are okay to eat it. So that's my session on beans, really. And I think I've pretty much, let me see here, I have my notes here, laid everything out. And like I said, there's an energetic component to beans, and then there is the whole physical component to it as to what it does for you. I don't agree with the fact that, all I've had this situation where clients have eaten my meals and then said, listen, we're allergic to the beans, but I've started including soaking them well, and I always put in kombu in all my beans, and it's worked like a charm, and I've gotten people to eat their bean after being off it for like 9-10 years. So that's a big achievement. So, and people with compromised digestive. So you have to be very alert to the fact that, listen, I need to soak them, I need to not eat them in isolation, I need to combine them with another food group, I need to perhaps add kombu to my meal. That's a brittle leaf, and you need to cut it into stamp-sized pieces and then put it in your bean when it starts cooking, and then take it out when you're done with it, which will pre-digest my bean. I need to eat small amounts of it. I don't need to eat large amounts of it. So don't sit with the bean soup at night and say, hey, I'm getting all my protein. No, that's not the way out. You need to eat small amounts of it with other food groups. You need to look at, perhaps if you're working out a vegan or a vegetarian protein blend. I don't recommend whey protein. And you need to also look at other food groups. So you need to look at amaranth, you need to look at quinoa, which are your pseudo grains, which are bringing you more protein. So maybe at one meal including it. And then sit down with yourself and see how many grams of protein you're getting in a day, and is it really enough based on what I've said for the day, because you need the minimum. You cannot go below the minimum, because then that's when the whole aging thing starts. And when aging starts, you start getting depleted on the protein, and that's not what you want. Yes, if you are a non-vegetarian, you can choose to exclude them. But like I say, I always go back to energy, and I always go back to how plants come into your diet and how plants are assimilating in your body. And I always believe that plant protein is better absorbed, better assimilated than animal protein. That theory I maintain. So I've been working out all my life. I've been, never deficient on protein. And we all know that protein is a building block for many things in the body. So there are ways and means which, I've included, or I've made a complete day out of my diet where I am getting my sources from my sprouts and, from my protein blends, etc. So do look at those aspects of your meal, and do include, whole beans and lentils in your diet. Exclude them for a while if you've got a compromise situation like I've outlined in my talk today, and then get back on it when you're doing better. But you do need it. Okay, it's a good thing to include, especially for us Indians. It's one of the important food groups. It does get you plenty of fiber. It does get you plenty of that resistant starch which you need for the good gut bacteria, which is a big thing today, supporting the gut and the gut ecosystem. So I do encourage you to include a lot of beans in your diet. Okay. I hope it was helpful, this session, and I hope you're going to join me tomorrow, whoever's here for our session tomorrow. And, for the sessions that are coming up every single day for the next 5 days. Yeah, because there's a lot of learning. There are little tips that, get out of the way I've been dealing and handling with foods. And I think those tips are always handy, and it's good stuff that you walk away with. Yeah. Thank you so much. This was short because yesterday's session was a bit longer because of the cereal grains that I had done. But today's session has been a little shorter, but I hope I've been able to answer everything. And I'd love to take some questions if you have any, guys. Any questions, guys? Anything that you'd like to ask me, I'm happy to answer. Regarding anything or regarding just beans, if you have any questions. Not too many questions here. Let's have a look. Okay. I guess everybody's happy with their beans. Spirulina should be taken on an empty stomach, or can it be taken in the evening? You can take it anytime you want, but it's a good idea to make sure that you take it when your stomach's a bit empty. Yes. Can high protein be consumed by people with kidney stones and fatty liver? When you say high protein, this is style underscore couture underscore urban. I don't know what you mean. Do you mean animal protein? When you say high protein, I need to know what that means. People living in UAE, which cooking oil is best? Pomace oil or cold press? I would say cold press coconut. Anything cold press would do. Yeah, this is Hareem. I hope I've answered your question. Let's see here. What is the minimum protein for individuals? I've just said that it's about 0.36 grams per pound. So calculated based on your body weight, roughly about 80 grams a day for an adult who's working out, or 53 grams for a 50-year-old if you calculate it based on body weight and age. What grass feed whey protein? I don't really, advocate whey so much because it loads up your kidneys in the long run. So I wouldn't recommend whey. I'm a vegan vegetarian and I'm allergic to chickpeas and chana. So please suggest some beans and lentils for maximum possible. This is from Anu. Like I said, Anu, if you start cooking your chickpeas and chanas with kombu, which is a seaweed which is available online, you might find a big change. You might actually find you will be able to digest it. Having said that, you can go with almost anything else. Like if you're in India, then you can go with, chauli, which is lobia. You can go with a green moong. You can go with black dal, black whole dal. You can go with black beans or the small rajma, the red kidney beans, uh, white beans, the white rajmas, anything works. So I think I've basically addressed everything. People with patients with kidney stones and fatty liver, can they have high protein? Again, high veg protein. Sure, you can have some amount of it, but you may need to be under some practitioner, yeah, to help you through this. So if you come on a diet, maybe I can help you out. Okay, so I think we're done with the session today, and I hope it was helpful. I hope all of you, which brand of kombu to buy? Okay, so there is a person in Delhi who supplies you with the Wakaba Japanese Foods, supplies you with a good quality of kombu. So maybe you want to look that up online. Okay. Wakaba Japanese Foods will give you your combo. He'll ship it to you if you wire him the money. Yeah, you can tell him that Shinali said so. Um, so I think that's about it. I've kind of laid down how many grams you need a day as an adult. I've also told you how to calculate it, and I hope you guys have got some sense of where to go and how to look at your bean component in the diet. And I hope you guys have walked away with the energetic component of what the bean can do for you. I think that's really important. That's really key here. Not just looking at your foods in terms of the physicality, but also going back to energetics and seeing that's what these sessions are all about, to lay down the whole energetic component of what the food does for you. Yeah? So good luck, and hope to see you tomorrow. Bye. Bye bye.